Tomorrow, lawmakers on Capitol Hill face a high-stakes vote on health insurance subsidies and on Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy's rival plan.
As Sabrina Wilson reports, with tax credits soon to expire, Republicans push Cassidy's plan as an alternative to what Democrats want.
300,000 Louisianans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act's marketplace. On Thursday, the Senate is expected to take up two competing proposals related to the ACA.
Premiums are higher, care is unaffordable, the system is not sustainable.
Democrats want the soon-to-expire enhanced ACA premium subsidies extended for 3 years. The nonpartisan Kaiser Family Foundation says if those tax credits expire, 22 million Americans will see their premiums increase by an average of 114%.
When you take these subsidies away, you have directly people who just will not be able to afford plans that they may have had for many years.
Senate Republicans are behind a proposal by Louisiana U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy and Senator Mike Crapo of Idaho.
Our members have decided that we're going to vote on a Crapo-Cassidy proposal.
I spoke to Cassidy, a medical doctor, about his plan, which would convert the value of the enhanced subsidies into contributions to health savings accounts.
In our plan, we'll be giving families, say take a family of 4 and the parents are in their 50s, $5,000 to pay for those initial costs associated with their health care plan. The proposal that Republicans are advancing is paid for. We do that by restarting what are called cost-sharing reduction payments. Beginning in 2027, we will lower premiums by 11%.
Peter Robbins Brown leads Louisiana Progress, which advocates for the poor and working class.
Or there are definitely some problems with the ACA that absolutely need to be ironed out, fixed, changed, probably pretty dramatically. I don't think that Senator Cassidy's plan gets at that.
Whether you support Democrats' proposal or Cassidy's plan, health policy experts have maintained for years that when fewer people have health coverage, and Republicans have long criticized the Affordable Care Act, which was passed during President Obama's administration. However, Senator Cassidy's plan does not dismantle the ACA.